Today I have a Panasonic PVS4266. This is a Super VHS machine that Panasonic had around, I think it was 92, is when this one would have been a current model. This one here, the unit is not accepting a tape. So we're going to take a look at this and see what the problem is with this one. And these ones are a little bit more difficult to service. As you'll see once I get into it, they got all these extra boards just stuffed in there in the way. Well, if you remember a few months ago, I had to service my blower wheel on my HVAC system. Actually, I've serviced it a few times. I changed the blower wheel a few years back. I changed the motor even more years, I guess about probably 12 years ago. The mounting bracket on the motor, if you remember the last service where I worked on it, the mounting bracket had fractured, the welds had fractured, and the motor finally broke. Well, I wired it in place with some copper and steel wire to hold it in place, and I had to order a new motor in. And that has got to be the most expensive electric motor I have ever seen in my life. $614.12 is what it cost me, because it was a proprietary motor used by Carrier on their HVAC systems of 2002, and it was specific to the model that I happen to have. Most motors have got three mounting arms, and this particular one had 4. Of course, you try phoning around and nobody will sell you a motor. They want to charge you $2,000 to come out and do a service on something that takes like 15 minutes to change. So shout out goes out to Fraser Valley Refrigeration. That's where I bought the part. That's where they put the system in for me. They put the system in 2002 when I built the house. And they're the only ones that have actually been willing to sell me any parts. They sold me the replacement motor. They sold me the blower wheel when it decided to come apart. Everybody else, nope, we got to do the install. So shout out goes to these guys. I just figured I'd show. I didn't shoot the video of me changing the motor just because it's quite involved. It involves me lying on my back and cursing to get the bloody thing out. It's not that difficult. There's only 4 bolts or 2 screws that hold the fan or the blower assembly in. Basically, 2 screws that hold the cover on, 2 screws that hold a bracket on, and then 2 screws that hold the blower, and it just all slides out, and of course the 4 wires. And then basically the bolts that hold the motor on, and the 1 bolt that tightens onto the blower wheel. So if you want to see how that's done, go back and look at the older ones. Anyway, I figured I would share that today. I do have a job to do here. It's a VCR, so let's get started. This is a PVS4266 from 1992, Panasonic, obviously, Super VHS. This was a carry-in from one of my local viewers that brought it to me this morning, and the complaint on this is that it doesn't load a tape. So before I try to even load a tape, we're going to take it apart and see what's going on. First thing we do is we give it a visual inspection, see if anything looks off, make sure that parts that are supposed to be free are not jammed up. And next we'll power it up and see if it'll load a tape while we're observing the mechanism to see what it does. Is it even powering up? Turn on the bench power. I want to make that mistake again. Well, I do believe it's not even powering up. Well, that would explain why it's not accepting a tape. Looks like we have a dead power supply. Okay, let's dig into the power supply and see why it's dead. That red screw and one back here, I think. Should be a second screw on here that holds this thing in. Where the heck is it? This one might only have one. It only has 1 screw, this one. Power supply unplugs, and we need to check and see why it's not working. Fuse is not blown, which is a good sign. We'll just turn this thing on this edge here so we can examine the power supply and see why it is not putting out power. First thing we'll check to see if there's any juice stuck in this main filter cap, which there's none, which means it discharged. We'll power the unit up. I want to see if there's any DC voltage on the DC side of the transformer. So we've got power to it now, and black to the ground, and then we can just measure. So the power supply is running. We have power. We have 5 volts, and we have 15 volts, which is, I think, a little bit on the high side. It should be like 12. That's a little bit on the high side, I think. It's unplugged now. Of course, it will hold the charge for a while until I discharge it. Okay, now the power supply is down. Main filter cap is down to 5 volts. Usually these caps go bad. Sometimes this little one over here goes bad. There's a little one down here that's gray, and it might be bad. That's one that usually, it's in the primary side. It affects the oscillator, and when it goes bad, it usually can cause the voltage to become unstable. So we're going to pull this one. It's gray. I think it probably used to be brown, but from heating over the years, it's changed color. Well, actually, this one here is the same color. Maybe it is a gray one. Anyway, we're going to pull it and measure the ESR on this one and just see, because this one particular cap, C5, over here on the primary side, is one that has historically caused us some issues, along with the secondary caps. This one particular one on the primary side is one that is notorious for giving problems. My soldering iron, I think it's been stuck against a wire and melting some insulation. On what? Probably something that's going to catch fire. What's it been melting? It's been melting a power cord for something. But what? Now I got to check this out. Or was it an audio cord that was being melted? Something was being melted by the tip. Just an audio cord for my MP3 player. Had fallen up against the iron and melted a bit of the insulation. Oh well, no big deal. It's just an RCA cord. Let's remove C5. No fancy solder suckers are needed for this. This is a 4.7 at 200 volts. What do you think the chances of me having one like that? I would say probably slim to none, but we'll check it anyway. We'll see whether it's, first of all, lost any of its capacity. That looks good there. How's the ESR? Maybe this one's okay. Maybe it's some secondary caps. .7 at 250 volts should measure in around 5 ohms on ESR meter, and it's measuring at 10. So this one is going right. This one's bad. So now I got to see if I can find one. Let's just say I don't generally carry too many high voltage caps like this, and it being Sunday, I can't get one today unless I find one in another power supply. But let me just take a quick peek at my inventory and see what I have. Okay, I got a new cap here. ESR's 5. The value is a little lower on this one. It's only a 3.3 versus a 4.7, but it should be okay. These are typically just in the oscillator and the boot up anyway, so the range is not quite as critical as, say, one would be on the secondary side. But because they are operating at mains voltage, we have to use a high voltage one. This one's rated at 400 volts, so we should not have any issues with this one. Oops. A lot of these use like a 2.2 in them as well, some of them. I think they just did running changes and stuck with it, whatever in they had at the time, because I've seen these caps range from 2.2 to 4.7 in different models. All very similar design. It's going to be a scorcher today here. For us, anyway, right? For here, it's going to be hot. We're going through a little heat wave right now this week. Yesterday was the first day I turned on the HVAC system. That's why I wanted to change that motor. Because from now through September, when it's really hot, my AC is going to be running a lot. So I figured I better do it now rather than have it break down when it is hot, really hot out. We'll check this 1018 volt cap. Actually, it's an 18 volt cap. This one might be okay, but it was running at 16 volts. This is the 12 volt rail, but again, it's not under any load, so the voltage will creep up a bit under no load. But these caps have a tendency to fail. I'm going to check the ESR on this one, see how this one looks. So 0.06 is good. 0.06, 1000 microfarad at 16 volt. Actually, it's an 18 volt, but you can see 0.08 and 0.06 for, or 0.08 and 0.09 for 25 and 16 volt respectively, and this is at 0.06. So this is this is fine. .06. So this cap, I think, is fine. We can measure the actual capacity of it on the fluke. Measuring 1200 microfarads, so it certainly is storing energy. So we'll put that one back and move on to the next one and see which one's bad. Maybe it's something else that's causing it to shut down. Maybe the power supply is okay. After all, it is putting out voltage, but the unit didn't turn on. So we might have another problem on the unit itself other than the power supply. C16 and C17 are usually the ones that cause trouble on this, so let's just check C17 now. See how that one looks. This one is a 1000 at 6.3, and being in the 5 volt supply, this one here, if this one was bad, it would certainly stop the unit from turning on, because the 5 volt rail would have been low. Uh, 1095 is what this one's measuring. How's my ESR on this one? So it should be no worse than about 0.12. It's kind of getting there, right? This is a 6 volt 1000. So a 10 is 0.12 worst case, 10 volt worst case. It's close. This one I might want to change just because I know these ones are problematic. 1000 at 6.3. Let me get one of those. I'm sure I've got one. Here's a new one. It's 0.1 as well. So, this one okay? What the heck did I do with it? See, they're both measuring the same. I don't see any leakage on this one. Usually when these go bad, they start to leak. They're Panasonic caps, right? Mashusta. It's a sheet or whatever. They normally start to actually leak when they go bad, but like a new one is 0.1, and the old one is also 0.1. So it might be okay. I'm thinking it's probably okay. I'll check this other one back here as well and see if any of them are going, that are. I mean, normally you can find them when they go high ESR, but they haven't gone there. I know you can say, why don't you just change all the parts? Well, the problem is this is a paid repair, and you start changing a whole bunch of parts, and all of a sudden you get over what the owner is willing to pay for it. I'm going to put the power supply back in and plug it in, just see whether there's anything obvious as to why it's not turning on. The power supply is putting out power though, so it should start. I haven't seen one of these machines in countless years either. Power. Oh, it does have power. It's just the display is pretty much out. It does have power. It does turn on. Okay, so I don't think the clock display is all that important. Might be the display itself is dead. I just didn't notice it turning on before. Or maybe it wasn't, but it is now. The red light comes on. And the S-VHS light comes on. Alright, let's see what it does when I try to load a tape. What's it doing? It just pushes the tape back out. It tries to load for a sec, and then it kicks the tape out. That is a classic mode switch problem. That is what that is. So, let's pull the chassis. Get at the mode switch. I know this one's got red screws in the bottom that hold the chassis, and so I got to remove them. I got to remove this cover first. Remove that shielding so I can get to one of the screws that's hidden by it. There's a red screw there, one there, and one there. These are number 1 Phillips, so we'll change the bit and remove these 3 chassis screws. Pop the front off the unit. plastic. Plastic is getting so brittle on these machines now. If you just so much as breathe on it, it's going to break. You get really careful when you pop out any of these plastic clips, because again, they're all very old and very brittle. They were very brittle 20 years ago. Pop the red screws. There's a couple more in the back here that need to come out. There's one back here that needs to come out as well. My fear on this machine is that once I get it loading, it's going to have capacitors that are bad on some of the modules, because these glass modules with surface mounted electrolytic caps on them were notorious for failing. And that's my fear, is I'm going to get the thing running only to find out that there's bad caps, and at that point there would be nothing really that can be done, because you're not getting those modules today. And you're not changing the parts out because, first of all, just attempting to change them would probably damage the glass module that they're on. That's for starters. And cost-wise, nobody's going to pay that kind of money to repair a machine like this. They're not that valuable, despite what some people claim. They're not all that valuable. I believe I got to remove this board. I'm going to screw down here, take out this bracket. I got to pull out this board to get that other bracket out of the way so I can lift the chassis. Should just unplug, I think. There we go. Unplug that so I can lift that out in order to get the rest of the chassis out. There's two more screws that are down through here that need to come out, at least to give us an access hole to get the screw. The stupid screwdriver's lost its magnetic charge. Goddamn screwdriver. Alright, now, this mechanism should lift out at this point. Do those clips. I think I got all the screws on it now. It should just pop straight out. There's the mode switch I'm after. Now this one's being wired into other connectors. I just removed this one. Oh, the hell with that. I don't even need to do that. I've got enough slack here. All I'm going to do is turn this over so that I can get to the switch and unsolder it and remove it and clean it. So there's the mode switch there. Get the desoldering tool handy and pop out the solder on the back of it here. Okay, mode switch out. The timing mark on here, there's a little timing mark right there. That's your home position, that's where it came out. You ready for this? I don't want to break this thing, this plastic is so brittle. Come on, pop through. I think that's where the problem might be. Yeah, I think that's where our problem is going to be. Let's get some cleaner and clean that up. Alright, deaux it into the switch. We'll see how much crap comes off this. Well, lots. This one's pretty bad. This is one of the worst I've seen in a long time. What do you think? Put some on the contacts over here as well. And give them a wipe. See, I've got some more on the switch itself, so I'll put the switch back together and spin it several times and let the polishing action clean the contacts up a little better. When the switch is lined up here, the two arrows, there's a hole over here which you'll see, which lines up with a timing mark on the gear when I put it back together. You see the timing mark on the gear. Another mark on that gear right down there. See the hole on the gear? That lines up with that hole on the switch. It's off a little bit here. We'll just move it over just a smidge. Just turning the loading motor just to get it right on. So now you can see the timing mark lines up. That's timed. And then the little black screw goes back in. And then I can resolder the switch back in place, reinstall the mechanism, and see if we fix the problem. It goes that the Super VHS was an afterthought on this one. They just basically took a regular VHS deck and they modified it to have Super VHS, and they didn't really change the design much. This bracket, which is probably not even required, well, I guess it's part of the grounding for the chassis, is hard to get in because you got to fit it into this notch that's on this bracket. Goes in like that. So a big problem with this one is they put that S-video board in, it's an afterthought, and didn't take into consideration someone having to open up the chassis. So you got to pull the board out, and whenever you pull that board, all those edge connectors, there's always a good chance that something's going to bend. So you got to really be careful when you reseat the stand-up module, because the connections are really fragile in those edge connectors. Come on, get in there, you piece of crap. There. Now we gotta get the circuit board back lined up with the plugs on the bottom and get them plugged in. Ten minutes later, I still don't have the connectors all seated. There's 3 of them, and you can't see them all. You see one, and you can't see the other 2. You see the other 2, you can't see the third one. It's a joke, this design. In. That was the breaker that just tripped for the AC in here. Oh, come on. Joke this is. One plug will go in and the other one doesn't want to line up. Be really careful of that connector because the pins will bend quite easy if you're not careful, and my screwdriver's lost its magnetism again. I have a sneaking suspicion it's because the magnet that's in the back of this is opposite to what my little magnetic charger's charging it at, and it because of that it just loses. So just mounting the rest of the chassis. Of course, don't forget to plug in the switch. This I think it's for the S-VHS detection, I believe. Okay, we'll plug it in now and see what happens. Oh, that display is lighting up, but it's really weak. The display tube itself is what the problem is. You can see it. I don't know if you can see it or not on camera, but it's lighting up. It's very, very dim. You'll see the O2. That's why I missed it before, right? It is lighting up. It's just the display itself. It's so bright in the studio here that it's really hard to see, but it is indeed lighting up, as you can see. It's just it's super, super bright in here. And I don't even have all the lights turned on, but I've got some of them on. Alright, let's see if this thing will load a tape this time. Oh, look at that. It loads the tape. Will it play the tape? I guess we'll find out when I plug the TV in. Which is which? That's the outputs. Okay, I got a blue screen. Let's press play. There where the play button is on this one. Play. I don't have a picture. Well, what else is new? I bet you those caps are bad on those boards, and this thing is going to be a write-off. I'll try a Super VHS tape. See, that has a picture. Don't see a picture from that either. I'm just going to double check the S-VHS board to make sure that it is seated properly, because that was the only board that was removed. Maybe I'll pull the S-video connectors off the back just so I can lift the board right out, because of course with the little ribbon cable on here, the little connector on here, it makes it hard to see what I'm doing. Again, this was it's almost like this was an afterthought. Panasonic said, let's make a Super VHS machine, but let's not do what Sony did and redesign it like they did with their SLVR5 and SLVR1000. Let's not redesign the machine. Let's just take an existing machine and cob on an additional board with a connector on it, and we'll call it a day. I'm just looking at these connectors on the bottom here just to make sure that none of the pins bent over when I plugged it back in, but they look okay. I don't see anything bent. Sometimes when the plugs go in, because they have to fit into these little slots on here, sometimes if you're not lined up right, one will bend over. So I just wanted to double check that to make sure that that's okay, but I don't see anything out of place there. I'll put this board back in again and seat it down and try it again. But what I think's the problem, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess the problem. No, if we don't get video, there's a very good chance as one of these chips is bad. You see, if you look on the bottom side of these, there are oodles and oodles of surface mounted caps. Now these are glass boards. You can't really solder to them. If you put a soldering iron to this board is going to fall apart. And if it's had leaking caps on the other side, it's going to really be in bad shape. You replace these as a module. This one's a VCRS 0185. But unfortunately, and these were not cheap. These were upwards of $100 or more when you had to buy them, when these units were still in production. And a few of these we did have to change over the years. And they're not cheap. They're really expensive. But they're not available. And any of them that you would find, well, they're all dating back to 1992. So they're all way beyond their prime, even not used, because the caps just fail. This one isn't even a high-end unit, because the high-end units had noise reduction. And this one here, that part of the board's not populated. But this is ridiculous. This is like 3 times that AC unit has tripped that breaker. And it's the only thing that's running on that circuit. It has that circuit to itself. There's nothing else on there other than the AC. And it's tripped it. And it's a brand new breaker, because when it tripped before, I thought, okay, maybe it's a weak breaker. So I swapped it with another one that was new. And it's tripping it again. This is getting frustrating. It should not be tripping a 15 amp breaker. It only draws 1100 watts. Alright, I reseated the S-video board. Let's see whether I have any better results now. Play. And the breaker tripped yet again. Let's see if it plays a Super VHS tape. See how that looks. Other problem with this design is just getting the scope probe in there, hooking up for the RF, so I can look at the RF and just tweak the tracking. It's pretty close. I had to turn the plasma off, just too much interference from it with the cover off on this thing. It's just unwatchable. But on the CRT monitor, it looks fine. I'll show you the CRT. See the CRT monitor, it looks fine. But on the plasma, not with the cover off it, it's no good. I'm just going to try just tweaking the guides ever so slightly. The waveform is pretty darn good, but it's off just a smidge. I'll show you. As I say, it's pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. That's perfect on one side, and then that's the entrance side guide, the exit side guide. I think that's about as good as I'm going to ever get this thing. You can see the slight difference between one head and the other because one head is a little more worn than the other, but the waveform is flat, which is what we're after. Looking good. How's the sound? I don't hear my sound. I might be slightly, the video waveform is perfect, but I might be just a bit off for the hi-fi. So let's just tweak that a bit and see if the sound kicks back in. There we go. So I guess it was just a little bit off for the sound. Kill that sound. But picture's still fine. To say the waveform is almost 100% perfect. I kind of brought it back to where it was a bit, so maybe the audio hi-fi heads are slightly off. There we go. We just tripped that bloody breaker yet again. I'm dying in here. I can't keep the AC running. Every time I turn the AC on, it trips the breaker within like 5 minutes. It's ridiculous. I know some of you junior electricians out there are going to say that I've got a bad breaker, but I don't, as I'd already explained. When it tripped the first couple times, when I first installed it and split the service to put it on its own dedicated circuit, which there's nothing else on, it was tripping. So I figured, okay, well, the breaker it was on was a really old one that I used to overload quite a bit in the shop here because I used to do things like use microwave transformers to blow stuff up. And so I figured, okay, maybe that breaker was bad. So I went and I bought a brand new breaker and put it on. And it's doing the same thing. So I don't know. This doesn't draw that much power because I put the kilowatt meter on it and it's only drawing like around 1,000 watts. But there's nothing else on this circuit. The only thing, well, there is something else on the circuit, but it's not running. My soffit lights, but they're not running. It's during the day, so like there's nothing else switched on, and yet it keeps tripping it after it runs for about 10 minutes. It trips. I shouldn't say that it ran for a couple of hours today and then it tripped, but since it's tripped like 4 times. Anyway, this is looking good. This one's got, I got the sound muted there just because it's music. So I'm going to throw it together and we'll take a look at it on the plasma. So I'll give the heads a clean first. Not too bad. Give the audio control head and transport a clean as well. Yes, if you interrupt the LED sensor here, it will try to load. That's what it uses for when you put a tape in. The pinch roller had a lot of crap on it. You just heard the click of death for my air conditioner yet again. I guess I'll have to replace the 15 amp breaker with a 20. Not really recommended, but I may have to because it's the only thing on that circuit, and there's no way in hell it should be. But I guess it's just running. It's hot today too, right? So it's running just close to the limit, and I guess it just goes over, or doesn't go over, just over time. How a breaker operates is there's an electromagnet in there, so that if you have a short or something that draws way too much power, it'll trip that electromagnet. And it also has a bimetal strip that if you're drawing full current and you're sitting right at that edge, that bimetal strip can heat up and trip. And being that it's hot today, I'm sure that that panel is probably a bit warm. I know it's a bit warm because it's hot. It's sitting on the side of the house. It's got the sun hitting the outside of the wall, heating the panel up. So I guess running it close to that limit, being it's also a hot day, is just enough to put it over the edge. Alright, I'm going to throw the top on this unit so I can see this on the plasma without all the interference from the plasma. I'm still going to get interference from it, but it won't be as bad. But we'll put the screws in the bottom too to shield the board. That's what these screws do. There's a red screw here that goes through the bottom, and this shields the chassis to the board. That one's kind of important. These other ones just are there to break the board if you try to pull it out without removing them. I swear to God, that's what they did. It's a trap. I never broke any boards, but let's just say I know of people that did. How I know that is because I'd get the VCR into the shop after it was damaged. Someone would bring the VCR in and they find that the circuit board had a break right where those screws were, because someone tried to open it up without removing this base plate and taking out that. They got these two, but well, this one's got a hole in it, so there's no excuse on this one. Some of them did not have a hole there, and you actually had to remove this base. But this one here, looking at it now, this one's got a hole. Anyway, that grounds this shield. That screw grounds the chassis. I'll throw the top cover on it because the top cover is grounded as well. It's grounded to here. And then we'll see how it looks with the top cover on the plasma. Even with the AC running in here today, it is absolutely brutal. It can't keep up. Like, I feel the nice cold draft from the AC, but the rest of the place is hot. Really hot. So in other words, when I finish this one, I'm going into the house where I've got the central air running. I'm paying the price now. It will shut off at 4 o'clock when the thermostat will go up, so it won't cool to the same degree once it gets to 4 o'clock. There it is, playing on the plasma. Picture and sound, Super VHS tape. It's playing great. As I say, with the shielding off, it was unwatchable. The screws that I'll hold this on from the back ground it to the power supply, which is grounded to the base, and the main board, which is grounded to the chassis. So you got all these grounding screws on these sets that have to be in place. And the top cover being metal gives it the greatest amount of shielding around the heads. If I take the top cover off, you'll have so many lines in that screen, that picture, you won't even watch it. It's bad. That's why I had to turn on the plasma, or the CRT. And that's one of the reasons I maintain the CRT up on that shelf. I use it to watch my security cameras from time to time, but and that's what it was used for years, was security cameras. But that's the main reason I keep that CRT sitting up there in the corner, is so that when I have a VCR that is susceptible to interference from this, I can look at it on the other one. And it also makes doing alignment by eyeball a little bit easier when I'm not using the scope, which I'm usually using the scope. When I do it without it, sometimes I just kind of eyeball it and get it close and then use the scope, so it makes it a little easier to see what you're doing. Digital monitors are generally not the best for doing alignment. Anyway, this one's working. I will go back to I'll go back to a pre-recorded tape here, because I just got a copy of Titanic sitting here on the bench, so I'll throw this one in. I don't think I have the tracking controls on this. They're on the remote, so it's just in the default position for tracking, and it's playing no problemo. Even got the closed captions showing up there. That's because the TV, this TV will display, when you're in mute, it'll display closed captions on the TV. Neat, huh? And this is my own recording that I did. Let it track up. Again, I don't have the tracking control here, so it's kind of hard to do it without the remote. But there it is, it's tracked up. Okay, this one's done. So you got one of these machines that does not want to accept the tape, and the tape kind of just kicks back out. It's going to be that mode switch. That's what the problem was with this. That's what the problem is with all these machines. So this one's back in service, and hopefully will run for a little while longer. I did change that 4.7 microfarad cap in the power supply. That is one that is problematic, and it causes them to not start when it goes bad. The other caps all tested good. We've got another working machine. The owner of this one will be happy. I'm going to send him an email now, let him know that I've got his machine ready for pickup, and he'll come over and grab it. He's local to me. Just before I finish up on this one, I'm going to check the hi-fi alignment. This is the test point down here. TP9, that's the RF for the hi-fi. This is the hi-fi circuit over here. Let's just take a look at that one and see if I can bring that one up a little better. So that's showing that the entrance side, which is the left side guide, is just off just a bit. So we just tweak that ever so slightly. I can get that waveform absolutely perfect. Now I got a perfect picture, and the envelope is perfect. And we had the video envelope bang on as well. But the audio is, because of the thinner track, especially when you're at SP speed, the track width is much skinnier than the SP video, because it's the same heads for all 3 speeds for audio, so it's a very, very skinny track. So sometimes it's a little easier to align to a pre-recorded tape, at least on these pre-recorded tapes, especially the ones that were done on Sprinters. The alignment is pretty darn close to that you would see with a factory alignment tape, which I don't have for VHS, only for beta. Anyway, I think that pretty much finishes this one off. We'll put it through all the modes of operation. So search forward, works fine. Search reverse is working fine. Go to full fast forward. Full fast forward, full rewind, back to play. I'm not going to do a test recording on it because there's no point. Nobody's recording anything on VHS these days, and I'm sure the recording works just fine. But playback is perfect. Hi-fi audio is perfect. So this one's done. So I'll say thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.